So again, we've already done videos already that talk about obviously what to look out for when you're moving with a kit and going forward and things like that. Again, this is one of those ones which is quite a nice example because we're using a Revell kit like this. Some of the areas when you're looking at the parts and you're going through them and checking them over and things like that, some little things to look out for. So actually what we have on here, if I remember the right one, we've got what we talk about as flash. Again, good example down here of showing what we're talking about. So if we just get the camera a little bit closer. When we talk about flash, we talk about this type of thing. And as you can see, it's blurred along. And you look along the actual sprues and things like that, they're a little bit, got bits of plastic hanging off them. Now, the reason flash actually occurs is literally the molds, two halves coming together, there's a tiny gap. It's not a perfect fit right the way through. And sometimes when you're using, shall we say, lesser type companies, especially short run, you can see this all the time, but don't be put off. It's not actually a problem. As you can see down in here, 9 times out of 10 you can push it and it just comes off. So it's one of these things, it looks a lot worse than it actually is. And the same thing can happen, obviously we've got the burring line and the bits in between. Most times the sprue, you can see the edges of it down in here, look worse than it actually does on the part. The part then tends to be quite clean, but to be honest, you get a lot of people who always got lots of flash in it and all the rest of it, whereas you can see down there, you just push it off. So sometimes when you're looking again at some of the parts, and we've got them just down in here, you can see these edges, they're not crisply done. This is literally just flash as well, and as you can see, we've got a little bit just on here. So again, a quick literally plant with a knife and it's gone, and then we can give it a quick sand, so forth and so on, to actually clean these up. But again, you can get little bits. We've got a bit just down in here and around here, and it just needs a little bit of clean up. And again, these things can happen, but honestly, don't be put off by them. Again, AAA kits, Tamiya, don't see it. Things like this, you see it all the time. But these are nice and easy things to clean up. They're on here. This one here, to be honest, is a bit thicker than normal. That's quite a hefty bit of flash. But again, just trim them off, sand them off, clean up the parts, and you'll be good to go. Sometimes you can get it, and it is a little bit like it down in here. The entire part is covered in flash. But again, it's quite easy to see where it is. A little bit of cleanup. But again, the things you have to think about here, we are building a 32nd scale Spitfire, which is quite nice detail. It's got everything we'd expect to have, but it's a bit flashy, needs a little bit cleanup. Don't forget, it's £100 cheaper than this kit. And okay, this kit has got a few little niceties on it as well that this one hasn't. So for instance, this one's got a fully detailed engine. But if you're not worried about it, you're not going to display it open, you're not worried about it. The cockpit as well, maybe just a few little things in there. But again, if you wanted to, you could spend just a little bit of money and get a little bit of aftermarket. So you might think to yourself, Pat, set harnesses perhaps. Obviously this kit doesn't come with it. You can pay 20 quid, set harnesses just to finish off that cockpit. You have something looking very nice. Or, like we've shown before, we've got videos on it there. Make your own set of harnesses, pop them in, and you'll be absolutely fine, and no one from a distance is going to know any of the wiser. And again, you're the one who's only spent £35, maybe say £50 with a few aftermarket bits and pieces in there and all the rest of it, instead of £135 on a kit as you make your way through. So again, those are just the little things that I wouldn't be worried about. Don't worry about them, just push through, clean up the parts and make your way on with the build. If you're never sure about what's flash and what's not, and occasionally it can get a little bit like that, always have a look at the instructions. Have a good look at the instructions, go through them, familiarise yourself with it, and if you can, test fit it. So cut it off with the sprue, test fit it. If you find that flash is in the way, trim it off and you're good to go. But I won't go through hacking through, because every now and again you might find that a little bit of flash is in amongst perhaps a tab, and if that tab gets cut off as well, it can be a right pain trying to line it up or get it to stand on or clip into a certain item. But again, it's not the end of the world. You can easily make a new tab for it, glue it on, or just glue it into position without the tabs and things like that. So that's just early things. The other things as well is obviously make sure the ejector pins underneath here, like these, make sure they're all flush or slightly sunk. If they're raised and standing proud, what can happen is, especially if you've got a situation like down in here when you've got two halves coming together, if any of these down in here are sitting a little bit proud, you could be into a position where they actually don't sandwich together nicely, and then you can have a gap and it can be unsightly, so forth and so on. Or you get to that thing of pushing it together and it actually pushes through onto the other side of the part that you're doing, just to make sure they are all good as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop on with the cockpit, make our way on with that one, get that one tidied up and put together, and then we'll come together with any little problems we got I think you need to know about. We'll show you there, but the next bit we'll be looking at is obviously gluing a few of the parts together.